You are watching KTS. This is the Sentinel. And in studio today, I have two postgraduate student leaders, Boaz Limo, the chairman, and Frank Maluri, the secretary general. Tribalism in Kenya has been really a thorn in Kenya recently. Do you think youths have a responsibility in fighting this corruption, this issue of tribalism?
100% they have a responsibility, because today if you're going to destruct the country because of tribalism, then as youth, which we prefer and we still have that bright future, I don't know where we will live. So I see that responsibility lies to them, and not only to the youth, but it starts even from the current leader, who they are not youth, but they need to leave this country in peace and not in tribalism. And the responsibility of youth, as I go back, in Kenya, 42 tribes, and we know, I don't need to go in detail on that, but what has this tribalism brought in Kenya? A lot of things, and we can never even discuss it all, because we see the cultural diversity, how the economic diversity, in the development diversity in Kenya, because of even tribalism, how the political hardship in Kenya, how do youth they come into leadership, all those ones, they are brutal on that one. And because we don't want to discuss a lot of it, but we need to discuss, so how these youth now, they can even help to reduce the tribalism, if not eradicating it at all, so that Kenya can live in peace, unity, and love as Kenyans, as one only. What I can even advise to youth, as I'm advising myself too, because I'm a youth, first of all, we need to be tolerant in whatever we are doing as youth, because intolerance, it's not even taught anyway. It starts even in the family, how you tolerate to a young brother, to a young sister. So you need to see the other brother, the other sister of another tribe as your young sister and your brother. That tolerance and love, it can even bring that love you want to see and the peace of the nation in the future. But on looking on the issue of tribalism, we need to have to put a very strong institution. Which institution? I mean from the constitution. This discrimination we see in the way things they are done, in the employment opportunity happening, we need to have a very strong position and clause in our constitution which eradicate and prohibit these actions of tolerance in tribalism, things that are happening in tribal ways, position they are given in tribal ways. Then youth, they need to come in front and say, you know what, this is our country future. You are done in your position, then you need to leave our country in peace and harmony, so that we can even have children, grandchildren in the future. These are the works youth they need to do. But also I can even urge religious leaders and other elder leaders in our community, in our society. They needed to preach this love. As the African tradition, we know the previous time we were even staying in bonfire. You are told stories about the hellos of Africa. But we need to have these stories back in the way we are doing, even in our modern way, even in our digital way. Elders, they need to sit down with youth, discussing about love, discussing about loving each other as a countryman, and not discussing about the other kind of tribe, what did to you and what did you do to it. So, and even getting out of these says whatever in our tribal ways, then, and that way I can even urge youth now that tribalism, actually, if we don't work hard on eradicating it, it won't make it better in the future. Thank you.
Boaz Limo, having in mind that most voters are really youths, do you think their involvement in leadership will reduce or curb even this issue of tribalism?
Youths actually contribute to more than 35% of the Kenyan voters. The challenge we're having at the moment, the tribal issue we are having at the moment, started a long time ago. We can trace it to our former leaders. But we don't have to live in the past. We have to decide as youths, we have to change. We cannot just continue fighting ourselves because of our tribal identities. We cannot fight our sisters, our brothers, because they belong to Kamba, they belong to Luya, they belong to Kalenjin or Kikuyus. We have to change as youths. I believe most of our youths are educated. We have gone to various institutions where we interact with various individuals from various corners of this country. And it's very funny when youths, especially those who are undertaking their education in various institutions, you find youths staying together as brothers and sisters. You find a Kalenjin dating a Kikuyu dating a Luo, a Luya dating a Kamba, without any challenge. But when it comes to now, let's say, advancing their relationship to another level, it becomes a challenge because they have that fear that I'm a Kalenjin. If I take a Kikuyu to my own place, what will the society say? What will my friends say? We have to fight that stigma. As youths, we have to lead the way actually. We are all human beings. That should be the bottom line. These other identities of being a Kalenjin, being a Luo, it only resurfaces when it comes to politics. But during the other days, we eat together, we play together, we do business together. But our politicians are using our identities to divide us as Kenyans, which we should refuse that as youths if we are to change our country. Because we have seen tribalism has actually caused a lot of problems in our country. And we have this issue whenever we have an election. Remember the 1992 issue? We had post-election violence in 1997. We had post-election violence in 2002. Actually, there we didn't actually experience post-election violence because of the nature of politics. We are having two leaders from the same tribe fight for the same position. So actually, we didn't experience post-election violence. It climaxed in 2007. We saw the effects. People were killed. People were butchered. Properties were destroyed. And we saw how tribalism can actually affect us as a nation.
So you're saying that we should look at each other as
youths, we should look. The bottom line is we are all Kenyans.
Yeah.
We should be patriotic to our nation. Tribalism actually will never lead us anywhere. If at all it's going to lead us, it will going to lead us into hell actually. But of course, we should refuse to be used by our leaders. Because whenever we have an issue with our leaders, they usually come back to us, our tribe is being targeted, our people are being fought. They should take their responsibilities as individuals. If our leaders are corrupted, let them take their own crosses as individuals, not as a community.
Thank you, Boss Limo. You're saying that we should look beyond our identities and look at each other as human beings.
Maybe stressing up to that point, I want to see, as Boaz said, youth, they've been used with politicians according to their identity getting into power. Yeah, because they use youth, but again, when they get even those positions, they don't even remember you. So at the end of the time, people, they use you like a broke doing to that. They use you like a radar to their success position. So what I just want to say to the youth, we need to change in the ways we think things they are happening in the world. And how? Nowadays, people, they speaks about meritocracy. We need to get position according to merits. Merits, they are the ones which they can even give us anything we want in life. Because if I'm an entrepreneur, if I want to be an engineer, but I will be given that position being an engineer because I am qualified, I have the skills. That is merit, and not because my Kalenjin brother today is the minister in infrastructure, then I'm even a standard 7, now I want to be an engineer of a district. That's not right. So at the end of the time, youth, we need to advocate on merit so that even the other youth of other minimal, very small tribe, they can even get a cake on the national position. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. Remember, our topic is youth involvement in governance in Kenya today. And I want to ask Frank, how do you rate the Jubilee government in terms of employment?
Wow, it's now 3 years, 2012 up to today. Actually, unemployment is a challenge. It's a world challenge, and stressing to the Jubilee government what it has done, actually I can never comment so many because I don't have that vivid statistics, but what I see what is happening, which things they can even drive to improvement or unemployment, I can start from there. Like things the Jubilee government has been there in power, and remember it has been in power with a very new constitution. This constitution, it requires it to have different institutions which are even new in the government and then as Kenyans at large. But seeing what is happening, having the ways of funding, having this devolution whereby now powers and whatever of the government, they are going to the counties, all this one, they have even increased the way government works. So the increasing of the capacity of the government to work to its people, it means there is some vacancies left. My question is, do these vacancies have been filled by youth? I think somebody will answer me. I will ask even a question because I don't have those data, but that's my challenge too. But to the government, what I see it's doing today, it's trying to make the framework of better Kenya. That's what I can say today. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. Let me bring you boss to bring you into a conversation. Is the government doing enough to bring in fresh minds into work institutions? And I want you to also talk about the function, or what are the youths doing? Those youths in power, what are they doing in order to push through these policies?
Okay, before I comment on that, let me just comment on what Frank had said actually. The issue of unemployment. We know when the Jubilee government was campaigning, their manifesto, youths were the priority. They promised to create more employment opportunities for youths and for our women. We are now, it's almost 3 years, as my parents say. And usually, the government is usually rated in the past, or from in the past we used to rate governments like in the first 100 days of their stay in the government. Our government came in when we were undergoing very serious ethnic issues. You remember even our president was sworn in after we had undergone some court processes because the election was being disputed by the opposition.
Yeah.
And it actually divided our country into two.
Okay.
So when this government came into place, it came in a period whereby we had to implement a new constitution. The new constitution was in place.
It's a period of transition.
Yeah, it was a period of transition. So it was a bit challenging actually. But that should not be the issues. Our president and his deputy, they should know that actually what made them to be into power were youths actually. They went into campaign with youth agendas, which actually attracted youths into their camp. But so far, they have done nothing tangible to show us that they have actually solved the issue of unemployment. At the moment, it's so challenging. We are having youths who are graduating every year, and they have no place to go. And we are not seeing the government coming up with solutions to this issue. The government looks like it has no strategy actually to solve this unemployment issue. The employment opportunities we are seeing is like the other day we are seeing the government employing youths to police. That should not be the only opportunity for our youth to be employed. Mr. Waikuru is trying, Mrs. Waikuru has seen, is trying to actually have youths being taken care of. But of course, it's not enough. They are actually focusing on urban areas alone. What are we going to do to our youths living in villages? We have a challenge and the government should actually respond. So our government actually should come up with clear policies and strategies to make sure that our youths actually access employment opportunities. And we are not going to do that if whenever we have an opportunity in our government, the first priority they are giving to people with experience. I'm usually wondering when you see an advert, the first thing they ask is we need somebody who is 35 years and above, or someone who has worked more than 5 years. So, and then I ask myself, we are talking of creating employment to the youths, someone who is graduating, and then you're asking for job experience. Where are they going to get that job experience if they are not provided with an opportunity to work faster? So our government should be serious. They should be serious. And those older generation actually should actually accept the fact that we need a transition in this country.
Thank you, Mr. Limo. Frank, do you think the government is recycling old gas?
There was a question you asked me before Frank answers that question. It was an issue about the role youths play in creating job opportunities. As youths are trying actually. Youths are the most skilled persons in this country. They're the most innovative people in this country. If you talk of new innovations, talk of those people who are running the banking sector at the moment. Talk of those people who are running the phone industry at the moment, the telephone industry, the likes of Safaricom. They are the young people, those young entrepreneurs, the people who are running real estates at the moment are young guys. The problem at the moment is youth access to funds. Youths have a lot of ideas, great ideas, but starting or implementing those ideas is a challenge because they lack finances.
That's where the question will come in. These leaders, these youth leaders in the government, why are they not helping their fellow youth?
Yeah, we have a challenge. During the last parliament, Mr. Kutuny, Honorable Kutuny, he actually came up with a bill which was supposed to, the bill actually was about youths. Youths, those who graduated from the university, they were supposed to be absorbed into the government, whereby they were supposed to be working for government institutions and they were supposed to be paid something like 20,000 monthly. But again, that bill went, it's forgotten now. Honorable Sakaja is actually the leader of the youth parliamentarians in Kenya. He's been talking about coming up with bills to assist youths, but it's just a mere talk. We have not seen him actually going to parliament, debating that issues with his fellow parliamentarians. So we need youths with serious agendas, not just a mere talk. It's like those youths they are forgotten that actually they are part of us and they are representing us. So we need to pressurize these guys. We had Youth Punges. Youth Punges was a good idea. It was a good idea, but I don't know what happened to Youth Punges because that was the only platform for us to air our own views as youths. But it's like the government was determined to make sure that Youth Punges didn't exist.
Okay, thank you, Salimo. Frank, what do you think? Is the government doing enough?
The government currently is not doing enough, actually, bringing the new minds to work in public service or even creating that opportunity to work in other sector as unemployment is concerned too. Because like you can see what Boaz has been saying in here, when you see those private banks, even the Safaricom, the telecommunication industry, which is the very growing industry in the world now, telecommunication, you can see young minds there, the one employed in those positions, but the government is just looking to the youth as an obstacle only because they don't come with very strict policies to solve the issue of unemployment. So saying in mind that do they do much in bringing this young mind, for me it's no. And it's not to the context that even the current employment opportunities they are created, as even Boaz was saying, you find an advert stated like we need somebody with 10, even 15 years of experience. But asking myself here, as we can even graduate in masters to this year, but that experience, even since I started in my undergraduate, I don't even 5 years experience. So at the end of the time, even if I have that energetic mind, I have very good innovative ideas to bring in the office, but I'm limited action because of that employment opportunities happening, the recruitment regulation pleasant. So at the end of the time, we can urge now the government to change these policies of restrictness, because these are the restrictness only point of view. Because if you look at 10-year experience, 15-year experience, and you are speaking about employing youth, bringing young mind, that's very hard. But going back to the private sector, they just want somebody with skills. Even if you have a single year, but you have something new to bring to the office, they will take you on board. So the government now must come in front and say that this is the time now, because we are creating a lot of employment opportunities on the investment coming, because we have the foreign direct investment coming, investors coming from outside the country. All these one, they need now to be mainstreaming in providing employment to our youth. And in fact, mainstreaming that, again, I can even urge bringing the entrepreneurship skills to the youth in Kenya must be the master thing, because solving the problem of unemployment, it will be it will mean to be a lifetime, because people, they are born, people, they went to school, they get good education, but the level of accessing this employment opportunities are again a problem. So to the youth, again, we need to work hard in bringing ourselves in entrepreneurship work. How? Being innovative, because we can never even remain on idle like we don't work, but we have so many things to do. You can say the challenge might be funds, but today there is a lot of platform made for entrepreneurship development worldwide and in regional wide. These are the position how youth they can come in support of the government. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. Mr. Boslimo, I want to bring in the issue of Al-Shabaab militants, and I want to bring the issue of radicalization in religious institutions. Do you think, where have we gone wrong as a government?
So radicalization is a challenge at the moment. So we cannot equate what is happening in our country with what has happened in Nigeria, Sudan, and Central Africa. We still can manage our situation as a country. And I want to congratulate our president. Our president is actually doing all he can to make sure that we solve this issue once and for all. So we have a challenge. And the challenge is this war against terrorism actually is not a religious fight. We are fighting criminals who are actually determined to make sure that our Kenyan citizens are being divided into Muslims and Christians, and we are not going to allow that.
Thank you, Mr. Lima. Back to you, Frank. What should the government do? What do you think the government should do in order to stop this radicalization?
Thank you very much, Mr. Hillary. Religion institution, first of all, their origin, they start from the mother law. The constitution allows for people to believe in God, and the government can never intervene that because that is the belief. But what now it's coming from this religious institution, that's what brings this question what the government should do. First of all, they need to review the laws and policies which give access and mandate for this religious institution to work in the country. And not only reviewing that, because there is even this religious institution where they form NGO, non-government organization, and with an umbrella like they are providing social service to the marginalized group, the youth, mother in whatever, orphans. All this one, they bring some sense of another work which is not known to the rest of the world and the government at large. So what I see the government need to review these laws and see if they have given a chance of other extremist group to work with the religious institution to radicalize the youth and to radicalize other Kenyans people. That's number one. The second thing, the government need to work closely with this religious leader, because it's something when you are speaking about a belief, you can never even define, like Boaz is saying, Al-Shabaab is treated in the Islamic or whatever religion, Islamic knowledge. Fine, that's why, because that's what they are saying, and not only they are saying, that's what's happening, because all the culprits you can go and beyond, you find they are the Muslims. Then at the end of the time, you can even conclude, though, the Muslims, they are the Al-Shabaab, but also the Muslims, they will come back and say, no, we are not the terrorists, but there are some people within our ways of doing things of religion, they are the extremists. So that definition of extremism and religion ideas and religious belief, the government now must come in between and work this religious leader, who they are the extremists, so that we can even divide them in that way, that okay, you are the extremists and what is your work in this religion. So at the end of the time, you can solve this issue of insecurity. But the other thing what I just want to add to the government is to strengthen the defense forces on the way they respond to insecurity issues, because we have seen now the Aratis, they are Al-Shabaab in Kenya, not in Kenya. Al-Shabaab is in East Africa, Al-Shabaab in Sudan, Al-Shabaab is in Somalia. Terrorism, it's all over the world, but how do we even combat with this one? It's working in cooperation. The Kenyan government should cooperate with the rest of East African government. Like we go back, this culprit who they were caught, the 20 years old youth, is from Tanzania. He was doing Form 5 and he was supposed to go in Form 5. Very young boy. But even now the government of Tanzania is questioning, where do this radicalization started to this young boy? Because Hamaza, when he was Hamaza, hey, he was in school. The teacher said no, he was not in school in 2 months. So there are so many things happening within our mosque. So at the end of the time, even back home over there, they are asking, what should we do? So what I urge is the government now looking very close to this religious institution, I mean the mosque, even the churches, because extremism and radicalization, it can go to anybody, because there are people who they are they are not employed, they are just idle, and because we say the idle stay, the devil's auction. So if that is the case, the government should do something so that they can even reduce these things which is happening in the country. And the last thing what I want to urge, Kenyans should be united with the government. We need to support what the government is doing in fighting against Al-Shabaab, fighting against terrorism, because terrorism also they have their own tactic, but also Kenyans, if they're united, caring and respecting each other, as well as what we live in the same house. The nyumba kumi, whatever people they were speaking, but for me I supported 100%, because even back home, that's what made Tanzania to be there, the nyumba kumi system, because in that small places you can even know who comes in and who gets out. You can even predict this is the suspicion activities going, but if Kenyans they just live minding their own business, we need to go back and respect each other and mind our fellow Kenyans and mind our own life of living in the future to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank Malulu. Remember, you're watching the Sentinel, and if you have any views, you can send us your views on the number on your screen. As we come to the close of this discussion, let me bring in the issue of challenge. What do you think? What kind of challenges are youth facing?
When we talk of challenges facing youth leadership or youths in general, youths are facing a lot of challenges actually. Me being part of them, we are having youths who are facing economic related challenges actually. We are having youths who are facing issues to do with access to education. We are having youths who are having challenges because of the current, I can say, the environment, harsh environmental challenges, like actually youths in the slums are having challenges. They are exposed to many dangers we are having. When I talk of issues with leadership, our young leaders are having mentorship issues. They are having challenges when it comes to mentorship. We are having politicians who are going into political positions with very minimal experience, becoming a challenge to them when it comes to delivering their services. And then access to education. Most of our youths, especially in the rural areas, have a challenge in accessing education. Well, of course, the government has actually provided free education, but go to places like North Rift, especially the Pokots, the Marakwets up there, the northeastern part of Kenya. Those guys are having issues. Schools out there, you find most of the schools being closed. There are no youths. The challenge is because if you go to Pokot, West Pokot, the challenge is because of insecurity and their way of life, actually their culture. Most of them prefer practicing cattle rustling than actually going to school.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Limo. Because of time, maybe I'll stop you from continuing. Frank, what exactly as a student leader have you contributed, maybe even to youth development?
Okay, thank you. In my part, I work with the Muso leadership because they are in undergraduate. They are my fellow young leaders in this university, and what we do is advising them, because I've been there in undergraduate leadership, even in secondary school back home there. So I have a lot of experience on how we can even intervene in these students' issues, whatever. So what we do, we try to advise them in advance in the ways they can even work with their fellow students and how they can even respond to problems. That's number one. We do advise them. The second thing what we do is working hand in hand, representing them in the Senate. If there is an issue whereby it concerns with more a student, as long as I'm a postgraduate student, but the effect which undergraduate will have if something bad happened to them, it is even going to affect my studies in here. So what we do is trying to bring that mutual understanding or what is happening, and at the end of the time we get a solution of solving students' problem in a mutual ways. That's what we do in even empowering these youth leaders of mine too, because they are of different age, but we advanced a little bit from them, so we try to even shape them on the way they are doing things. But the last thing what I do is I can say I'm the role model now to the youth leadership, because what we do and what they see what we do, that's what they can even get something in their future, so that they can see, okay, this is among our youth leader, then we can work like him, we can even talk like him, because that's leadership. And that's the end of it, that we say mentoring youth, actually it's not a one day stand like you can say I can tell you this then you can go and work. It needs a time, it needs time and position to work for that, but that's what we do.
Thank you, Frank, and thank you, boss. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
We have come to the end of the Sentinel, and be sure to catch us next week as we interrogate political, social, and economic issues. So have a good night.